The truth is, adding value will never go out of style.
Hello, and thanks for joining us for another Five Things podcast. We've got a great group of guys here today. We're going to talk a little bit about everything, but ultimately we've got Adam Saad from Rush Hour Karting, owner of that location. Where's it in? Garner, Clayton area?
It's right in between Garner and Clayton,
okay.
off Highway 70. Yes,
okay, I know it was on the border there.
Yeah.
And we've got old friend of the podcast here, Scott Rutter, dropping in again and showing off some of his gear. And then we've got Josh Cain from the American Red Cross. And thanks for joining us, fellas. We're going to jump over a few different topics today. A little bit different. First time we've ever had three people on a podcast, so this is kind of cool. Got Mustafa all stressed out. So we're excited to do this today. And ultimately, we've got a very successful business owner. Well, I guess we'll start off dealing with that and tell people a little bit about how you ended up getting into business for yourself and why that field and
well, I appreciate that. I wouldn't say very successful yet. I say we're making it.
Sure. It's a process,
we got a long
right?
ways to go, though.
Sure.
Yeah, we opened up in 2005. The main thing about it was growing up in this area. I lived in Garner actually my whole entire life.
Okay.
And
we're not holding that against you.
And I'm a pirate. Went to ECU.
Okay, there you go.
So
you just made a lot of friends.
A few.
Right.
But we noticed that there's when me and my brother and my cousin were the starters of it. There was a big buzz going around the corporate world about team building, and us being an RTP area with all these big companies starting to come out there to retain good employees. Team building, company outings was so huge. So we wanted something to really that was unique and different to do. To be able to do that.
Sure. Being
in North Carolina, we're a racing country. We got these big companies here, and we got the three big universities. State, Duke, Carolina,
right,
and ECU, of course. But so 2004, we bought the land. 2005, we built the building and opened up, and almost 15 years later, we're still here.
Well, I'll tell you what, that's a success in itself. 50% of the businesses fail in the first 2 years. And it's staggering the numbers that when you look over the course of a decade, businesses that actually survive that long, it's a small number.
And it's interesting you said that because our second year was when the economy plummeted,
Ugh.
the worst,
Sure.
depression that we have ever had.
Right.
And or not depression, recession.
Yeah.
And we were able to cut back a lot of stuff. I fired the grass cutter, I fired the maid, I fired everybody.
Right.
We just let the staff do everything ourselves. We cut back as much cost as we could. We saved everything, and 2 years later, our business was back in the black, and we haven't seen red since then.
And it's scary when you're going through that because ultimately it's you got to take care of the company first.
Yes.
And, Scott was mad when you cut him from cutting the grass. He was definitely mad at you for a while. But as he grew up and matured, he understood. Understood, you had to do what you had to do. But,
that's right. You have to in a small business.
So ultimately a good principle is that you identified a need. And then you came up with a good strategy. You knew your market. You were catering to people. Hey, this is racing country. There's a big need out there, and I can tell you this from being there several times. You guys did it right. I mean, it's a really nice facility.
I appreciate it.
Yeah, definitely a nice facility. Super fun. So if you're watching this and you want to build some camaraderie with your coworkers or employees or a team, Rush Hour Karting is definitely a great way to do it. And let me ask you this real quick: if you had to give advice to someone thinking about starting a company, what is the number one thing that you would tell them?
Oh.
And I know there's a lot. Okay.
Well, no, the absolute biggest thing is you have got to constantly reinvent yourself. As soon as you become complacent and say, "Oh, I've made it," you're going to die because somebody is going to come and take your lunch away and open up something better than you.
Mm-hmm.
We have constantly changed. We recently had axe throwing. And you got to investigate. You got to figure out what do the customers want, what is their need. One of the reasons we had axe throwing, first of all, it's become a big buzz around the country. But it's also become a long wait to race, and it gets people frustrated. Now they can throw axes while waiting. We added some racing simulators, actual real racing simulators they can play on. A lot of our business is coming from RTP. Gardner's got a very bad stereotype of being, first of all, we are the country bumpkin of the triangle, number one. Number two, we are so far away from RTP and Morrisville, okay? And none of those are true. So to overcome that, I bought a nice luxury corporate bus. I'm talking about leather seats, hardwood floors, phone charger on every aisle, TVs everywhere, holds 34 people. I will go to RTP, pick up the people, take them rush hour. That way they can also drink, don't worry about driving back.
Well, that's
so
awesome.
I compensated by a bad location, which I didn't realize it until moved on, by adding the bus. So you have to constantly reinvent yourself, figure out what's working, what's not working. If it's not working, ditch it. If it is working, expand on it. Look at what other people are doing, you know.
That's awesome. I mean, you're spitting out so much wisdom right now. I'm going to try to minimize how much I piggyback on that because there was a lot there. But you know, being in starting a Brand Ascent Media, obviously a media and marketing company. You know, so many people think they're doing good, and they don't have to do anything. But that's the time you got to. You have to invest. And I can tell you're thinking outside of the box.
You have to. I mean, look at Blockbuster. Look at Sears. Look at so many people or so many companies that were doing amazing. And what did they do? They never changed.
Exactly.
And as opposed to Netflix, which completely changed their business model, and now they're doing phenomenal.
And so the thing about it is, you got, Netflix should have been invented by Blockbuster.
Exactly right.
Airbnb should have been invented by Hilton. You know, these companies that get complacent and they're not growing and they're not evolving. And you get a company like Wish that comes along, which a lot of people haven't even heard of. But Wish started 100% marketing online, Facebook, Instagram. They went from zero to turning down a $10 billion cash offer from Amazon in 3 years.
Really?
$10 billion. Wow. So a lot of people haven't heard of Wish, yet they're doing $8.5 billion a year.
Well, my wife sure hasn't. She has been banned from Wish.
Okay.
Completely.
So that's a great example, actually. But I love how you're reinventing yourself. I love how you're open-minded to marketing. And here's the other thing: you're making barrier to entry. You're lowering the barrier to entry. If people want to use your product or service, you're making it easier for them to be able to do that. And that's awesome.
Absolutely.
And you're making it convenient. You're making it fun. I mean, you can drink on the way to the go-karting. I mean,
not on the way.
That's called win. Okay, not on the way.
Drink after you race.
After, all right.
And that's what's fun because you get a timesheet, so you can talk trash to each other while you're pounding down beers.
Okay.
And you can drink while axe throwing now. You can't drink while racing.
Really?
But you
all
can
right.
axe throw and have a beer. Yeah, it makes it fun.
As long as you sign the waiver.
Just definitely sound the waiver.
But
and speaking of that, I want to add one more thing also.
Sure.
Never ever neglect your employees because your employees will give you some of the best ideas.
Mm-hmm.
So because they're the ones who deal with the customers the most, and they, we usually try to have meetings once a month, and we do outings. We just went to the Alamo Draft House and went to a movie. But before we do that, I like to talk with everybody as a group, and some of them, they'll come up with great ideas I didn't even think about. So don't neglect any employee that let them, and also it improves their morale so much because, hey, that was my idea.
Right.
So listen to your employees, and you'll always learn so much, and it'll help your business.
I definitely agree. It reminds me of reading something a while back about Bill Gates when he goes on vacation. He invites everybody to write a letter about an improvement to make in the company. And Bill Gates on vacation literally is reading letters from every employee, all of the Microsoft employees back then. So I thought that was really, really pretty awesome because he wanted to your point, he wanted to know, this from my memory here, which is not spectacular, but he wanted to know what the janitor thought about X. And,
Exactly.
That's, you can't be everywhere at all time, but your good people can.
No doubt.
So definitely thank you for sharing that. That was great content. And moving over to Josh, how long you been with American Red Cross?
So I've been with the Red Cross for 10 years.
10 years,
10
okay.
Years, hard to believe.
Goes by quick, doesn't it?
It does.
Okay.
Especially in our line of business. So.
Awesome.
We measure things by, when you started with certain hurricanes.
Sure.
I was around for Matthew or Irene or something like that.
Okay.
But a lot of people in eastern North Carolina and North Carolina do that.
Sure. And gosh, we've certainly needed some help over the last decade for sure with the floods and hurricanes on the eastern Outer Banks and all of that.
Yeah.
And tell us a little bit about yourself, where you're from originally.
So originally I'm from the D.C., Maryland area.
Okay.
And, I came down for college in Eastern North Carolina Wesleyan College, Division III.
Okay.
Got a lot of great, for the love of the game, athletes down there.
There you go.
But came down for college there and fell in love with the state. Met my wife and fell in love with. I was working in a nonprofit there, and fell in love with the mission of the Red Cross. I'd been in the military and served in the military, and I interacted with them in different ways. And
Okay.
And then connected. This opportunity to join them came up, and I jumped right in, and it's been a great experience.
So what branch were you in?
I was in the Army. Yep.
Okay.
6 years in the Army. So.
I'm not going to hold that against you.
Thanks.
I was in the 82nd, so I would bring it up.
Hey, yeah.
But
yeah.
so that's what brought me to North Carolina.
Mhm.
But you just love the field and just enjoy serving other people, I'm guessing.
Yeah, so one of the great things about the Red Cross is we're 150 years old. To your point, Adam, we can't do things the way we were doing them 150 years ago, right?
Sure.
So, and the nature of disasters, man-made, natural, has changed, and the technology partners have made things where we can do a better job being humanitarians and serving the community. So the Red Cross is big. We're one of the biggest nonprofits out there, but we still have a very local touch to all of our communities, offices all throughout the country, really. So we're big, and we have a corporate footprint, and we use a lot of the same tools that a lot of corporate sales teams use and things like that. But we also have a great mission that keeps us grounded to local people, local communities as well.
Super. And when you talk about man-made disasters, you're not talking about like Cam Newton's wardrobe, right? You're actually talking about some different things.
Well, that does impact some of the people who have to see it, but we're talking about things that have a little bit broader impact than that. Yeah.
Oh, Cam. But to each his own. I don't judge. So that being said, kind of the purpose and the collaboration, and Scott, obviously, old friend of the family here. Tell us a little bit about yourself real quick. Just I'm assuming everybody knows, but they may not have seen the other podcast.
Sure. So Scott Rutter, again, host of Sphere, Clayton Networking. Since we're on the ECU kick, my son, he's going to ECU, so he just actually started as a freshman.
Excellent.
So
Nice.
now
Your
Purple
son gets
Pirate.
free racing for life.
Awesome. I'll let him know. But the collaboration, Adam and I have known each other for a very long time. He's very influential in the community. And, when I thought of where we were going to host Sphere, I immediately thought of Adam, and, we've had a lot of success with one another. And I just admire where he comes from. He's very passionate about giving back to community, and that's also something we try and incorporate, to deliver a superior networking experience, support local businesses, and then also make it about give back to the community.
Sure.
So, and there's no bigger advocate of the American Red Cross than Adam. So he's your biggest cheerleader. So
That's true.
Well, the Red Cross they are the first people out there in disaster. Before disaster happens, they're out there preparing, and just what they do is just amazing. And so I love to give everything I can to help the Red Cross, without a doubt.
And that's awesome. And
Yeah.
go ahead.
I was going to say, it's partnerships, community partnerships with the local church, with local business, with local community leaders. This is how we get out in front. And we talk about business, leadership advice and things like that. It's so important to be as leaders, as organizations, what I call a learning leader, right? So, so the Red Cross is constantly doing that. Every time we go through something like we just went through the last 15 days with Dorian, we're learning the lessons we've learned from Florence. We put into in action with Dorian ahead of time. Adam's right. We're
That's
out
awesome.
there beforehand. Preparedness is a big thing. It's amazing how many of our partners, fire chiefs, emergency managers, will say, you know what, we spend millions of dollars on equipment, but the Red Cross and the work you do in preparedness can save money, property, lives in an equal or greater fashion just because you're out in front of it.
We're proactive instead of reactive.
Right.
Which is awesome. And a couple things before we get away from that. I think it's really smart on a networking point of view as a business owner that I'm always kind of baffled that more businesses don't host things like this, or host a networking event, or host an opportunity to have a blood drive or whatever you want to say. Number one, I think it's a good thing for a business to do, to serve your community, especially when you're pulling a profit out of the community. And I just think that's really smart business, number one. But then, of course, it's the good side of you as well. You want to serve your community. So I think that's awesome.
Well, let me tell you a little story here. I have a young employee I'm trying to carve into a manager.
Mm-hmm.
He's got the mentality of we gotta make we gotta make a penny from everybody. He's nickel and diming everybody. If somebody grabbed a bottle of water, oh, that'll be $2. We have 200 people there, and one person took a bottle of water.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not worried about $2.
Sure.
So the way I'm trying to explain to him is, don't nickel and dime people. Give out freebies. It's so much more important to develop a relationship so this company comes back than worrying about $2 and disappointing them. And I think a lot of business owners have that same mentality. So I think a lot of business owners have that same mentality. We've got to make money on every single thing. I disagree completely. I think if you give, you'll get back 2-3 times fold.
Sure.
So especially give into the community, because people remember that and they'll come back, and you get publicity out of it. If anything else, you get free publicity. PR is so much better than advertisement, by all means. So don't worry about nickel and dime. Worry about giving people a good time, and you're going to see them come back, and you're going to see even more.
And value. You want to give people value.
Yeah, and I don't think enough business people understand that.
Yeah. I mean, it's definitely a balance. I mean, you got to make money. You guys got to pay the bills and take care of employees and plan for the future and get ready for the next recession, because it will come. And we got to be saving for that and planning for that. But it is a balance. You want to serve your customers and be value orientated for sure.
Absolutely. And serve the community.
And so part of the reason why we're here today is to talk about an upcoming collaboration with you guys. And who wants to take the lead on starting that off?
Yeah, so
No pressure.
Yeah, no pressure at all. So, again, Scott, Sphere Networking, again, our mission is about making it about community and give back to, local nonprofit organizations, charities, and of course, Adam and I partnering on our networking event together. We decided American Red Cross. I mean, perfect timing, of course, Hurricane Dorian, and just how we can serve and, bring you guys value. So we have an event that's coming up next Tuesday, September 17th, from 6 p.m. to 8 p.m. And out of the generosity of Adam, 100% of the revenue generated. I'll let Adam talk about that piece. But I personally want to make a $100 donation, which we do have a landing page set up. So
nice.
Following this, on behalf of myself personally and Sphere, we're going to go ahead and kick that campaign off. And what's the goal? How much money are we looking to raise here, Adam?
Well, my actual goal is going to be $15 million. So anything close to that, I'll be happy.
All right.
Scott, though, is an amazing networker. He is a personable person if I've ever seen.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody in the community knows Scott.
Mm-hmm.
So when we first started doing these networking events, I've hosted many networking events. Usually you get 20 or 30 people. He had over 100 people come. Small business owners, people in the community.
Sure.
So he's got a great way of bringing people together, and they all.
You thought I was lying.
Well, people exaggerate a little bit, but no, Scott really knows a lot of people, and these business owners are they're happy to network with each other. But on top of that, from what I saw, they did not. They were happy to pay extra to donate to the Red Cross.
Sure. So
that's what happened last time. So I'm hoping to do the same thing, and we're still going to give discounts so that we can give them a good value for the money. But we're donating 100% of everything that comes in that day directly to the Red Cross.
Okay. Wow, that's awesome.
So it's the more people that come, the merrier, and the more money we'll raise.
Yeah, so obviously people out on the coast with all these hurricanes here lately, there's a lot of needs. There's a lot of help that is needed. And this is where the American Red Cross comes in, and sounds like a great time.
Yeah, it's one of those things where we talked about partnerships earlier, networking, and the Red Cross, having someone like Adam Rush Hour Karting that has come up time and time again. This is not the first time, like he mentioned, that they have stepped up to help the people, the communities in Eastern North Carolina. who have been affected by these disasters. So we're getting together. It's going to be a lot of fun.
Oh yeah,
A ton of fun.
it really is a lot of fun.
Yeah, and it really it's fun for a great cause. The Red Cross, we try to be so diligent when it comes to community support, and you see a lot of nonprofits. You can go to places like GuideStar.com, and you see some nonprofits out there that spend a lot of money on administrative, and we are so focused that we spend 90 cents out of every dollar goes right to serving the community.
Wow.
And 10 cents goes to making sure that we have the administrative backbone
sure, yeah.
to do that.
You got to pay people. Yeah.
The structure, right? So we're but having a partner like this to come out and engage people, a lot of people sat there, and we've seen a lot of comparisons to, well, this wasn't Florence, but you got to stop and think, to the thousands of people who spent last weekend in a shelter, and some of them still had tarps on their roof from Florence. Some of them a year ago. Today is the 1 year anniversary of the landfall of Hurricane Florence.
Jeez.
Some of them spent almost a year ago, spent nights in Red Cross shelters, and that takes a lot of funds to be able to get out, have these shelters operational, and so having folks who come in and help us raise the funding to be out there beforehand,
Sure.
to help respond and help do long-term recovery, because we've been with thousands, over 6,600 families were impacted. We're still doing Florence work with them.
Wow.
And so we were there for them again with Dorian. And these, our organization is volunteer led. We have volunteers crawling out everywhere doing great things. People came from all over the country for Florence, and they did the same thing for Dorian. So local volunteers from here will be coming out helping us with this event, helping us do what we need to do here as well. But we're volunteer led, and that helps us stay. Again, we want to talk about being connected to a community when
Sure.
they come in and are part of us and are integral part of who we are. So we have this event. It's going to be a ton of fun. We have the opportunity to raise funds to support the victims of Hurricane Dorian, and some people say, well, this wasn't Florence. But again, there are people who lost their homes, people in Emerald Isle, Ocracoke Island. We're still doing a lot of work there. This week was really the big week for us because we had to get on a ferry, get all of our stuff on a ferry to go out to Ocracoke. And so a lot of that work started. They were taking people off helicopters and bringing them to us, and now we get to go onto the island starting Sunday afternoon. So a lot of great work has been going on there as well.
Wow.
But this is going to be money raised to help support them, help them get what they need. And so we're very appreciative, Adam. Rush Hour Karting. I mean, time and time again to have that partnership is a big deal.
Definitely, and great networking. If you're a small business owner or a large business owner, you get out and meet people. I say all the time, it's not about who you know, it's who knows you. And to do that, you got to have relationships.
Network with purpose.
Network with purpose. And if I'm not mistaken, the axe throwing going on that day, you get to throw an axe at Scott one time for coming out.
Well,
Only my wife.
No, you don't throw it at Scott. There's an apple on his head.
Oh,
you have to hit the apple.
That's thank you for the correction. That's what I meant. Yeah, but it's good practice, good times. And so that leads us to our 5 things, and ultimately the 5 things that the 5 lines of service. Isn't that what you?
Right.
That's what so the 5 things that I normally talk about is actually the 5 lines of service that the Red Cross offers. So love to hear about those 5 things.
Yeah. So we sort of joked when we first met, Brian, that people often think about what we call blood and flood. So but the Red Cross actually does a lot of different things, but we focus on 5 key areas in the American Red Cross. And there are over 150 Red Cross societies out there in other countries.
Okay.
We're partnering with the Bahamas Red Cross right now for the impact that they had.
Sure.
They saw with Dorian. But with the American Red Cross, we focus on 5 things. First of all, we're responsible for 40% of the nation's blood supply. So,
Wow.
blood is not one of those things that you can go and artificially manufacture, right? So it takes these same partnerships we're talking about to go out and get the community engaged, people to donate blood. And the Red Cross does all the testing. It's FDA regulated, so we go through all that work of labs. You should see some of our facilities where this is like, it's like a medical environment, clinical environment. But that's to make sure that the nation has a safe supply of blood product when you need it. So 40%. And I got to tell you, Dorian, the impact of Dorian, it canceled 100 blood drives, which is, the hospitals still need it. People are still going to the hospital. Patients still need it. So actually, one of the things that Adam has been generous enough to do is, so our office in Raleigh is off of 100 North Pear Tree Lane, right across from Wake Med. So we have blood drives there. You can go to redcross.org and schedule a blood drive. And if you schedule a blood drive at our Raleigh office, 100 North Pear Tree Lane, these things happen multiple times a week. You go in there and you donate blood, and you go to the desk, ask for Josh Cain. Adam has donated a free cart ride for the first 25 people who do that. So just
awesome.
You go to redcross.org and get on a schedule. It's pretty organized. And then just let me know, reach out, and I'll come down and get you this great connection with
That's
SR
awesome.
Karting.
And you cannot volunteer your ex to do this. You have to actually do it. So.
You got to do it. You got to do it. And all the requirements are on the web, redcross.org. You can get all the stuff to see if you're eligible.
Right.
But I tell you what, if you can't give yourself, it's a good point to say, if you can't give yourself, bring somebody else in, and we'll honor that too.
Sure.
Recruit.
Yeah, that's right. Network recruit. So we do blood supply. That's one of the biggest things that we're known for, and it's an important job. It's an important responsibility. We talked about how big the organization is, but we have big jobs and big commitments to the American people.
Sure.
The second thing is our disaster response. So the media really gets involved when things like Dorian happen. You can't click on a web link without seeing the eye of the storm and the track and everything like
Sure.
that. The reality for us though is we're going to be there, but we're there 365, 24/7 when people experience the same impact of a disaster with a home fire campaign, with single family home fires. These things are happening in Eastern North Carolina at an average of
Regularly.
6 a night. So we do a lot of work. To try to install smoke alarms, to try to save lives. Because we're such a big organization, we have an opportunity to make a big impact. And we've made a commitment that we wanted to reduce the number of deaths in home fires by 20% over 10 years. And we're doing that by installing working smoke alarms.
And
to get people alerted when there's a fire.
And you're not plugging the iWatch security monitored smoke security systems that integrate with your alarm system. But it's just a solution. That's all I'm saying.
Well, it's part
potential
of it,
solution.
Part of it's about education, right?
Sure.
And making sure people understand what resources they have.
Minimum noise. You
That's
need
right.
minimum noise. Yeah, for sure.
So we always talk about hear the beep where you sleep. So we want to be out there educating people because that stuff saves lives in the middle of wherever they may be.
And house fires are devastating. It takes everything.
It does.
You're sitting out there in your underwear at 3 a.m. and everything's gone. I mean, we can kind of joke about it, but it's devastating when it happens.
Life changing.
Yeah.
It's similar impact. It doesn't get the media attention that Dorian does
Sure.
or Florence. When you've lost your entire home
Yeah.
and maybe even a family member, it's the exact same
Sure.
experience.
Absolutely.
So the fire department, we're the first call. The Red Cross is the first call when the fire comes out when a family needs something.
Okay.
So we're there. Volunteers are there in the middle of the night.
I didn't realize that. That's good to know.
Yeah, we
That's
have
good.
volunteers who go out in the middle of the night. We call them disaster action team members.
Okay.
The third thing we do, which is near and dear to my heart because what we talked about earlier, is our work with the armed forces and veterans.
Okay.
I remember when I first went to our Army boot camp, they said they lined us up back in the day in front of payphones, believe it or not. People don't know what those are.
I remember those. Yeah.
And you're sitting there stressed out, they're getting screamed at, and they said, and we had gift cards, 17-digit gift cards. You're sitting there, hands are shaking, and they said, call your mom and dad. You have 30 seconds. Tell them you made it, and if there's an emergency, call the Red Cross. You maybe remember that from your own experience, but call the Red Cross. And so the Red Cross is there with the military from the day they raise their hand and take an oath till they're getting care in veteran and VA facilities as well. So we do a ton of stuff for military children, military spouses, connecting them when they're overseas. My brother, I actually wear this. It says, I support someone serving, and it has the phone number for how you can connect with the Red Cross during an emergency. My brother's in Iraq right now. He's been there for 5 months. And it's a big peace of mind for our family to know, if something happens and he needs to get back quickly, we can call the Red Cross
Sure.
in an emergency. The fourth thing we do is making sure that people are prepared for the emergency of a choking hazard, CPR, AED. Those are big deals, right? Those are big deals, and you go around, you're in a restaurant and you hear the commotion, or pediatric CPR, and people just don't know what to do.
Yeah.
You have all these settings where there's restaurants going on and people are choking, an elderly person's having a cardiac event. Do you know what to do? If there's an AED on the wall, could you save a life? And we honor a lot of people. This last year we honored over 400 people who were recognized having taken Red Cross training in CPR and have saved a life with CPR when no one else in the room knew what to do.
Wow. Nice.
Yeah, and the fifth thing we do is we do a lot of work with the international community, helping people connect. A lot of people, right now we have a shelter in the Bahamas, or in the West Palm Beach, for people who came from the Bahamas. And when communication goes down in another country, if they are war-torn or if there's a natural disaster, the Red Cross helps people here connect family members. We call it restoring family links. So, those are the big five. We talk about blood and flood. And when it comes to the military especially, we are there. You talk to anybody who's served in the military, they have a Red Cross story.
Well, awesome. Well, we're all looking forward to the event on the 17th. And thanks for sharing today, guys, and looking forward to this event. And thanks for the business wisdom as well for our young hustlers out there trying to make it happen.
Absolutely.
So thanks for joining us for another 5 Things podcast. We'll see you next time. Hello, this is Brian Smith, and thank you for watching. Please subscribe for more valuable content.